Okay. So that was a lot. 12 weeks on one hand seems like no time at all. And when I lay it out on the calendar like that, it seems like a lot of stuff. So it's a lot of stuff. But if you've done it, you are way ahead. If you've really stuck to that calendar, if you've really figured out how to lay these things out, these ideas, these projects in order where it starts to drive value, by the time you hit 12 weeks, you'll already start to see the value. You'll already start to hear from recruiters saying, wow, that message is really working. Wow, my offer acceptance rate's starting to go up. Wow, we're getting better quality candidates. The hiring manager is super thrilled to see that their content is being shared, is being engaged with. It's attracting more of the people they want. You will see some positive impacts very, very quickly. Now, what do you do after 12 weeks? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Two parts to this video. The first is, what do you do on a repeating level, right? Once you hit that 12 weeks, we talk about what are you installing in terms of habits, but there are certain things I can recommend right now that you focus on in terms of what are the repeating things I want to do. And the first one is job postings, right? You're almost going to order these projects. How are these job postings using your material? Are they using a headline? Are they using those first two paragraphs you wrote? Do you need to write more of them? People get bored. They see the same thing over and over again. Recruiters, hiring managers might say, is there a better one? I always have a document open when I have a good idea, I have like a bit of a brainwave, and I go, ooh, that's a good one. And I write something, kind of stick it in the drafts and say, I'll get back to it. Occasionally come back to it. Occasionally finish those ideas. Next, look at your visuals, right? As you're making those visuals, as you use templates to kind of make better visuals as you go, keep that library, stick it in a Google Drive or a folder on Microsoft or whatever, or wherever you put that stuff, make it available for other people so that they can see what you're building. They can tap into it. They can grab them. They can leverage it. Make new ones as you go. So that way, if you have a new one, then someone can use it or they can look to something old. Now, those are super useful to embed on job postings, but they're also useful to hand to hiring managers when you say, hey, when you announce you're hiring someone, do not go, we're hiring, because nobody cares. That's not important. It's not different. Everybody's hiring. That's not useful information. If you instead say, here's a graphic that you've connected to the larger brand idea that seeds and frames what you're all about, and say, here's some examples of how you announce you have a job opening and how to link to it. Make a one-pager Word document and use that and say, hey, hiring managers, you got a new job? Read this, and here's the stack of visuals you can use. You'll start to see that they're using more and more of this copy, more and more of this content, more and more better hashtags, maybe tagging some things and getting more lift in their posts. That's always good. So keep repeating that. Make sure all the hiring managers are using that material. Post to social. That's the sort of thing. It's kind of like a treadmill. It feels like once you're on it, you can't get off, and you can't. Really, that's the truth. But find a way to carve out a couple of minutes every single day to write something, to build something so that it's ready for social. You need to keep a steady cadence of content. I've already said, if you have nothing to say, you have absolutely nothing to say, it's better to say nothing at all. But this is your chance. This is an opportunity for you to spell out to a complete stranger who has found their way to your social channel to say why they should work there, to say what you offer. Even if you keep it simple, that's fine. If you have a photo of some people doing work and you can say, look, here's yet another example of how our team is all built around performance to do X and Y and Z, bam. That's all it takes. You're just using a photo. It can be a photo that's old. It could be in that Google Drive where people say, oh yeah, here's from that party 2 years ago. Fine. Whatever it is, you can always reuse. So keep it simple, but you always need to be building social copy. Check in on a regular basis with your hiring managers and your recruiters. What else do they need? What would help? Where are their challenges? As an employer brander, your job is to help them first. Many times I have great ideas on what they should want, but that's not what they want. They want something different. I need to listen to them and say, oh, I understand. Oh, their challenge is different than what I thought. Or the way they see the world is they think they need more headlines. They need to distribute the jobs more. Okay, whatever they need, find a way to help them. Make yourself a resource in this space. If you're a recruiter and you're already engaged in them, that's great. Make sure they know that this is employer brand thinking, that this isn't just usual recruiting stuff. It can be seen that way, but it doesn't have to be. And it might elevate you to show that this is bigger thinking. This is more strategic thinking than typical recruiter in onboarding and intake kind of stuff, right? This is stronger stuff. So keep an eye on your recruiters and keep an eye on your hiring managers and see what they need. Check your own social copy. Check your own social channels. Once a month, take a look at Glassdoor. Take a look at how people are responding to stuff. Look at your own copy. Look at your own social and say what's working and what's not working. All too often, we get on that treadmill and say, okay, we have to post a certain number of times a week or whatever. We don't say, and we don't look back and say, what worked? It's very easy for us to think, the CEO said we had to say this and think that was the most important post. You might even say that the post that got shared the most was the most important post. Was it? There's a difference between something that gets the most views and something that gets the most shares. There's a difference between something the CEO says and because they're tagged and because they have the full weight of being a CEO, lots of people engage with it, versus something a hiring manager posts and gets a lot of traffic, gets a lot of traction and turns into something. You're also going to want to collect success stories. Collecting wins, collecting victories, being able to take a victory lap is a huge, huge skill. As you're rolling out content, as you're rolling out videos, when the hiring manager comes back and says, wow, that video really worked. Look at what's happening in my LinkedIn. Take a screen capture of that. Show the data. Have that. When a candidate comes in and says, yeah, the only reason I applied for this job is because I saw this video and I was really interested that you offer all this autonomy. When you get slacked that message from the interviewer, keep it. That's really useful information. That's proof points that what you're doing is working. You're going to need those proof points. And you're going to have examples that you can share about what's working and who you can talk to for phase 2. Hey, who wants to elevate their game even more? The people who really got a lot of value out of that first process. Those are your fans now. Leverage them. So that's how you want to think about repeating processes. Check your copy, check your content, look for visuals, look for stories, check your Glassdoor over and over and over again. You install what that cadence looks like. But there's a lot of work still to be done. I said you could build and establish an employer brand in 12 weeks. I didn't mean that's all it took. I'm saying that's how you get it to a certain level. And much like exercise, I can get you from a couch to 5K in 12 weeks, but if you don't continue running, you're going to get back to the couch real fast. That's just how it works. So what can you do next that keeps elevating things? Well, first off, more variations of your graphics. Graphics can get kind of monotonous. And as you've established yourself, as you've established this kind of work as being useful and valuable, you're going to make more friends on the graphic team and the creative team and the marketing side who will be willing to carve out an extra half hour or hour for you once in a while to build something cool. My particular way of doing things is talking about how, hey, look, our consumer corporate brand is a little stiff. Most of them are, right? They're very, very constrained. And even though your colors and fonts and brand sections is a subset of that, you can say, because we're talking directly to candidates, push the boundaries a little bit. Do the stuff that you don't know that you would get through on a corporate or consumer project. Take a little more freedom. Teach me how to push the boundaries here. Every designer I've ever met feels like they're using like 50% of their brain. Like they look at the work they're doing and saying, it works, but it's not cool. And part of their brain's going, oh, you can make this so much cooler. Be the person who lets them be cool. Be the person who gives them permission to try new things. You want to make a friend with a designer or a creative? That's how you do it. You give them permission. You encourage them to try to push the boundaries as much as possible. And the visuals are how you do that. As you're doing this process, as you're talking to people, as you're capturing these videos, start to collect quotes. Start to collect these testimonials. Grab things from Glassdoor. Grab things from videos. Grab things. Maybe make a survey and ask people, what, if this is the brand, can you tell me a quick 2-second story about how that brand lives in your world, how it manifests itself, how you see it every day? You're going to end up collecting a slew of great quotes and great testimonials. And you've already made a visual kind of design for it, a template for it. So you take the text, you stick it in the template, you ask for a photo, bam, you've got social copy for months, right? This is the stuff you use over and over. And not just for social. This is the stuff you hand recruiters and say, hey, if you're trying to hire a data scientist, here's 3 quotes from 3 different data scientists that you can share with your candidates or your prospects to show them what we're like. Think of it as ammunition. You're sharing it with as many people who can use it as humanly possible. Those quotes don't die. They don't rot. They don't get old. they keep being useful. No one knows that that quote is from 3 years ago, so long as they're still around and so long as it's relatively true, right? If they're referencing a Super Bowl win from the Patriots, well, gosh, that's really, really old, but chances are you're not talking about that stuff. Focus on building lots and lots of testimonials. We've already talked about collecting wins. We've already talked about taking victory laps. Always useful. Once you do that for about 6 months, maybe ping HR and say, hey, can you check your data? Can you see if offer acceptance rates has bumped up? Maybe. That, to me, is like the acid test. If you can show you increased offer rates by a certain percentage, you can then do the math and say, hey, you also know, what does it cost us to lose a candidate at the offer stage? Oh, it costs us $8,000 in further continued blah, 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 blah. Great. You now know how much you increased the offer acceptance rates, and you know how many people that impacted, and you know what the cost of that is. Times one by the other, you can say, look at this pile of money I just saved this company. Look at it. It's in green. It's beautiful. It's a big old pile of cash. And that's the moment when you say, maybe we should invest in this more, right? When employer brand is just a cool idea and it's helping raise candidate levels and it's doing some fun things that recruiters notice and maybe a couple of hiring managers notice, but maybe it's still anecdotal and maybe it's still fluffy bunny. That is the pile of cash you can point to say, now I want to make some changes. Now we can move the boundaries. Now we can really push to see what can we do. And that is a great victory lap to take. Okay. You should also have one project in your back pocket, meaning this thing you want to do. It's a podcast. It's a CRM, so you can be perpetually emailing people who aren't ready to apply, but you know who they are and they've already seen the brand. They say, I like this brand, and you want to keep them warm. Maybe it's a social advocacy tool. Maybe it's a referral tool. I don't care, but it's a thing that you want to do next, but you can't because it requires time and money and you don't have either of those. Pick one, your favorite, and put it in your back pocket because a time will come. I promise you, a time will come. Probably right after you talk to HR about that pile of money. And someone will say, what does the next stage look like? What's the next step forward? And you reach back in your back pocket and you say, I need $25,000 a year to do this. And if I do it, I'll be able to do this and this and this, and it will lead to this change. That is the moment you have power. That is the moment you have leverage to move something and to change something. If you start to demand, hey, you're noticing that we're getting better candidates, I want more money, it's a hard fight. If HR has just told the CHRO, who's just told the leadership that this change that you're making for just a little bit of time, just a little bit of effort here, has yielded a significant and obvious change in offer acceptance rates, which leads to a certain pile of money that you got to save, guess what? Someone's going to email you and say, how do we do it better? And you're going to say, here's the answer. If you don't have it in your pocket, you're going to miss the opportunity. You're not going to be able to strike when the iron's hot. Trust me, when someone says what's next and you immediately say it's this to do this so we can achieve this, they think you're serious about this, they take you seriously, and you're way more likely to get what you want. If you go, I don't know, I'll get back to you in a week, they think you're just fishing. Have a back pocket project. You have no idea when that moment happens, when someone asks you what's next. Having it is going to serve you. Okay, that's how you do this. That's how you do everything after week 12. I'm tired. I'm doing a lot of talking. You probably can tell my voice is starting to get fried. That's okay because we're almost done. In the next video, we're just going to wrap it all up. Can't wait to see you there.